This is the reality. The only way you can live a life that you feel fulfilled by when it comes to an end, and that you're not sitting there regretting and or fearful of when it's coming to an end. There really is a beauty, I believe, to accepting and seeing that come to an end, and knowing that something better will come after.
Sure. Yeah.
That what you did in this life set the stage or the groundwork for something to come after that will be even better, but it requires you to go. I feel like people who stay for too long, even if we're not talking about death, we're talking about in positions of power. We're talking about if you reach a peak and then you start to you need to let it go, and someone else needs to come take over, or else you'll just stagnate. You're not going to actually keep progressing as a society. So there's a real necessary sort of like generational passing of the torch that needs to happen, and this goes from, again, the local level to the cosmic level, I think is kind of... Welcome back to the State of the Ark podcast. My name is Mike.
My name is Kason.
This is our final episode on Outer Wilds. Today we're covering the DLC, which is titled Echoes of the Eye. It turns out I did not have this purchased before. I thought maybe I had, so there was one thing that I hadn't actually done in the main game on the moon.
Oh, and it was with the circle things, the concentric circles and whatnot?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
I had not done that.
I remember that.
But I was thinking maybe that'll like initiate the DLC, so I'll wait for that. It turns out I didn't even have it purchased at all anyways.
Oh, that's hilarious.
So, yeah.
You know, it is a way, though. It is easy to miss at the beginning of the game. But I remember thinking, as I found it out, I was like, oh, what was Mike thinking of with the moon? And I thought of that. I thought of that thing.
That was the thing that I had not done.
And apparently that was just an early-ish way to find out where the quantum moon would be, or the Eye of the Universe.
Yeah, the fact that the Eye of the Universe is not being tracked. They're tracking. It's actually a really cool little device on the moon. It'll like, all the rings will come around on whatever object it's supposed to lock on and just follow it. But then with the Eye of the Universe, it's like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was really the only thing I had missed as far as, on your little map screen saying, there's more you can explore here. That was the only thing I had missed from the main game.
Nice.
However, I had not yet purchased the actual DLC, so I did that. There's a new exhibit that opens up when you do so in the observatory museum thing.
It's got a big like satellite tower.
Yep, and it talks about how there's a particular deep space satellite, which I had actually gone and explored in the main game just because I saw a red light out there.
Really? I had never seen it.
I gotta go see what that is. Actually, funny story. The first time I tried to get to that, it's a lot more difficult to judge like approaching speed for something that small.
Oh yeah.
Versus
you
like
just
a planet.
You just like zoom right by.
So I'm going and I'm like, I don't know, and then all of a sudden it's just blam! It's just like freaking collided, and all the alerts are going off of my ship. Like
duct tape.
Gonna die.
That's funny.
So the first time I tried to get there, I don't know, I must have been going 200 kilometers.
It was me too, same thing. But I didn't hit it though. I just went right. It just went right past me, like boom, and I was like, oh my gosh.
But I did end up going and looking at that. There was actually another deep space satellite, kind of. I think this is more of like an Easter egg for, like maybe people who had helped funded the game at a certain tier or something like that. It has this really weird message. I can't even remember what it is. It was so strange, but it's got little photographs and a little voice repeating this really strange like phrase that it must be some kind of inside joke. It made no sense to me.
Okay, I don't recall that at all.
So anyway, but I had actually seen this deep space satellite before, but I hadn't purchased the DLC, and of course I hadn't gone to the little I guess secondary observatory they have on Timber Hearth now, where I think it was Gabbro or
was it
Gabbro or was it no it's the guy who leads the observatory on Timber Hearth now, the one you tell about Feldspar. He had some notes about how these readings are freaking weird. Like something,
Yeah, well,
Gabbro should go there and make sure that the satellite doesn't have any dust on the lens or something.
Because
like
I think that it was photos. They were reading some photos, and it was just like, oh, these are cool. Oh, look at that. There's this planet. Oh, here. What? What's this one?
Yeah.
What? And you can hear them like talking about it. But yeah, I can't recall seeing it. Although I think you can see some images in the exhibit,
Yeah.
but I didn't know what to look for at the time. All it was very vague. It was like, oh, this is weird. What's wrong with this one? And so I didn't go back and check now. Now I think I should.
Yeah.
Was it? Did you see the little black, like the dark spot
so
over the sun? I assumed it was probably
there's
just a planet.
like a strange sort of shadow casting, like like an eclipse. It's not casting. It's the other way around. The sun's coming this way, and we're getting the shadow of the thing. But it's only at a specific angle because this satellite rotates at a different, like not like at the I hate doing this with space, horizontal orbits
with the plane of the planets.
Yeah,
and
the
whatnot,
horizontal orbits of the planets are all going the same direction. The satellite goes at like a vertical orbit.
Oh, that's right, because it was able to take a snapshot of the whole solar system, right?
That
Like,
was its whole purpose.
Right,
its whole purpose of that particular mission was let's get a photo of all the planets in the solar system at once in one image. So that's what they were doing. They're out there taking photos at these sort of extreme angles to be able to see that. And in doing so, at one of them, which was around 40 degrees, which is what's written on the photograph, they got this strange shadow over the sun, and they're like, that's weird. The equipment must be malfunctioning. I'm going to send Gabbro out there to like check it out. So you go track down the satellite.
Yep.
There's a message left by Gabbro there saying it's functioning just fine. Nothing's wrong.
To me. I love the satellite. It looks like a Donkey Kong barrel.
It's awesome.
It's so great. It's just the most crudely made satellite in the world.
I mean, kind of again. Emphasizing the point we made much earlier about this being like backyard space exploration kind of feel to everything. I really love that whole look to
Me too.
the spaceships and the technology of the Hearthians. Much less so, of course, than the other two spacefaring races we come across, which have much more crazy-looking techie. But like the Hearthians' technology is like
classic,
it's all just built from
so
freaking
good.
like pine trees and stuff. It is essentially like a tree fort that they can take to space.
Yeah,
and that's how they treat everything. And there's like literal duct tape on like the outsides of a lot of their ships and things like that.
Oh, it's so fun.
It's
you remember the game Backyard Baseball?
Yes, I do.
This is backyard space.
Backyard space exploration is exactly what it is.
Yeah, it's classic.
Totally the feeling it gives. So the point here is that you're supposed to catch up with the satellite.
Yeah, kind of follow it.
And match its speed and everything. And then around
see what it sees.
It displays the angle that
degrees.
It's viewing.
It's going up,
And so once it gets to 40 degrees, you look at the sun and boom, this like massive shadow just like appears on there. You fly into that.
Yeah.
And that's how you arrive on this vessel called simply the Stranger.
The Stranger, which is a very good name.
It's like cloaked. So that's the only reason you couldn't see it otherwise is because at any other angle, like it would just be invisible. You would not be able to see it.
Yeah.
It's probably made of glass and different things that reflect.
Oh, right.
Not reflect, the opposite. It would want to absorb light, right? So anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, it keeps it hidden from like normal view unless you're at this very specific viewing angle.
Yeah, it's very cool. I thought we were going to go in like a dark matter, dark energy direction with this because as soon as I saw it, I was like, what is that wasn't there before? What is this? Is it like some ball of darkness, dark matter, dark energy? And I thought for sure that that's what they were going to go for because this game likes to take theoretical things and make them like real. Mm-hmm. Anyways, it didn't do that. This has nothing to do with either of those things.
Yeah.
It's really creepy though.
Yeah.
So you fly towards the darkness, and as soon as you pass the something like an Event Horizon, all of a sudden, boom, you just see what's there.
Boom, you're
There's
inside
this
of it.
big, like it's a spaceship. It's a wheel. It's one of those one of the ideas that they can simulate gravity by having things inverse, like a hollow planet kind of thing that rotates, and then the gravity, the centrifugal force pushes things out, and then you can simulate gravity, right? There's a ton of movies. I think Halo does something like this. Isn't that the idea of the Halo?
So I forget the
Mass
name of the
Effect.
shape. Let me look this up actually, because I actually looked this up.
Yeah, I can't remember the name.
We were doing Terra Nigma because they have a
The movie Interstellar, there's one of these in Interstellar. It's like a cylinder that's just rotating.
Yeah, so the idea there's a specific like geometric shape
Yeah.
where it's on the inside of like a hollow, like donut kind of thing.
Yeah.
Terra Nigma's like world in the beginning is a very similar.
Oh,
concept.
really?
A hollow sphere. Torus. Torus is the name of the shape. So I'll pull it up here, right? So
there you go.
So it's
Torus.
So the idea is you build a torus and it spins, and then if you're standing on the inside of that, the centrifugal force will push out and create artificial gravity, which
Basically simulate gravity.
which is the concept of the Halo ring and a lot of science fiction sort of space stations.
It's how you can have a plausible society in outer space without like a big planet that generates its own gravity.
Right. So I guess I wanted to touch on two things. One that you just brought up. Well, actually, two of them that you just brought up. Just as like a starting off a launching point for this. I was surprised a little bit by when I started after having purchased the DLC. It had a message. I don't know if you saw it. If the version that you bought came with it, and so maybe it didn't, but it was there are images that some might consider frightening or something like that in this DLC. If you would rather not play that, there's some option where you can actually turn down the scares.
I don't remember. I never saw that.
Okay. I was very surprised.
Well, maybe I did. Yeah, that's fascinating.
Reduced frights disclaimer, as Alan is putting here.
I mean, this is creepy. This DLC is very creepy, but it's not something that I would expect that for.
No. I'm like literally baffled after playing it. Like, people think this is scary? You think this is scary? Really? Okay, like I get it. Like, some people are very, very squeamish and they want nothing to do with anything resembling. I mean, I think there's been a couple videos I've been watching since having finished it where, people who were very big fans of the original game, but who are very like almost anti-horror as a genre, and were not happy that this expansion for a game that they really loved incorporated elements that would make them not want to play. Right. But like, dude, come on, like this is really mild. It's just really mild.
I totally agree.
I'm not exactly like a horror buff. I don't like go out of my way to really engage with horror stuff, but I do like the genre.
Yeah, me too.
For films too, particularly anything in like the psychological horror sort of like sub genre, right? I think there's a lot of space for very rich thematic storytelling in that genre specifically. But we grew up on Resident Evil 4 and we played Silent Hill not too long ago.
Yeah.
Even those I feel like are mild in comparison to like some of like the really hardcore scary stuff that's out there. Mm-hmm. So I did not I came to the end of this and kind of just had the impression after all of this buzz about that of like, that's it? Like, really? Like, this is really what you guys were making a fuss about? Like, this is nothing.
It is nothing. And probably the scariest part about it, other than just the theme, there's some creepy standing at the top of a building feeling stuff that this game evokes. Yeah. Right? Like Vertigo sensations of like, whoa, this is crazy. But that's part of the theme of how the game is challenging you. But the parts that I think it'd be referring to that are the creepiest parts of the game reminded me a lot of Twilight Princess. and when you were in the Twilight Realm and you had to collect those little drops and fill up the
run away from those. Maybe I'm thinking of Skyward Sword.
Oh no, I'm thinking of Skyward Sword.
From the dudes.
That's what I'm thinking of. Not Twilight Princess, Skyward Sword.
That's right.
And that was pretty creepy, but I don't think a game like that really needed a disclaimer. That might have been creepier than this, actually.
Yeah. I actually think, given, well, I'll just say first of all, I really, really loved this story. The Eyes of the Echoes of the Ash story is really great.
Albeit
but
short.
I almost feel like I wish they had gone further with the horror element than they did, because I feel like it fits really well with what this was doing thematically. The fact that this previous, civilization who discovered the Eye of the Universe, found out what it did and denied it and tried to hide it.
They covered it up. That's crazy.
At any cost, they wanted no one to find it, and then they became obsessed with eternal life.
Yes.
The fact that
anyone,
the fact that anyone might be showing up onto their vessel uninvited to ruin that, has very rich territory for some pretty good horror vibes.
That's true.
Where these people do not want you here and will do anything at all to kill you or get you out.
Yes.
And I feel like, and now I feel like they could have gone further with that.
Oh,
It would have actually fit, and it would have made
Absolutely.
the game maybe even a little bit better.
Now, as it is, when you get caught, as I'm sure you did,
Yes.
I did several times.
Yeah.
It's scary-ish, but the guy just blows out your...
Yes,
he just blows out the fire.
That's my point.
He doesn't kill you. He doesn't consume you.
Like, I don't want my criticism, quote unquote, on this account to like be misunderstood. I'm not saying like I understand that all of those people are dead, so they can't come after you in real life.
Right.
But I almost feel like had they restructured this in a way to where that, I forget what is the name of the alien species. I don't know.
Strangers. I just say strangers.
Okay, strangers. We'll just call them that for now.
That's my word for them.
If the strangers had set up a better set of contingencies, it seemed like I actually came across
like booby traps and stuff.
Well, not so much that as much as if they really thought this was going to work for eternity, they were extremely naive.
Yeah.
Like, it's not even just the fact that, someone might eventually discover us, but there's also like your bridge or your dam is like breaking down over time. Yeah. You need people out there to like maintain the freaking station.
Yeah.
So had they had some way of like maintaining a very small population, right? They don't want the population to increase too much to where they can't support.
And then they need to go to other places. Yeah.
But like some way of having people who come awake into the real station and start chasing you around, and they try to kill you for real. It could almost elevate the stakes to where like someone invaded our little Matrix dream world. Yeah. Get out there and kill that guy. This is really bad.
Yep.
They could have even, I think, taken it further, and it would have really fit well. Now, that being said, it's not necessarily a complaint, just as much as I didn't think it was very scary at all.
No, not really.
And it could have been...
it was creepy. It was creepy.
could have been more.
It could have been
and it would have been better, I think.
I see. So, yes. Okay.
Anyway, that was my thought on that. You had said something else. About the Halo ring.
Oh, yeah.
I loved this little stranger space station thing.
Me too.
It is so freaking cool.
Yeah, it's really fun. I actually thought, once again, I'm just trying to figure things out. I thought that dam, because by the way, did you notice that loops are more than 22 minutes when you're in this?
I did not notice, because one thing that's hard for me...
It seemed slower.
One thing I did notice, and maybe this is my Inception brain,
yeah.
but when you're in like the dream Matrix world, and you can sort of hear the music when it's starting to go supernova, it's played in this sort of distorted, slower...
It almost seems slower.
I wonder if when you're in the dream world, or whatever they call it, if time does slow a little bit.
I noticed that it was playing slower.
But it's hard for me to tell, because my game is set up to where whenever I'm like, it was whenever I was translating my stuff, it would pause time. or if I was in my ship looking at my log, it would pause time. I know you can also set up to where whenever you actually have a dialogue with a character, it will pause time. Though I didn't have that one set up. But now that I'm thinking about it, none of those things would have affected at all.
Because you don't talk to anyone, yeah.
You don't talk to anyone, you don't translate anything. So maybe you're right. Maybe it's just...
It just seemed longer,
generally
that's all.
Well, I guess technically it is, because when it starts counting down to supernova, the ship starts moving away from the sun. Like really fast.
So maybe that's why.
To try to get out of the range of the explosion. But I don't know if that's it so much, because you still will eventually get like a...
Yeah, it's still
it's not like the blue supernova effect. It's like some other weird effect that I didn't really ever put together what is happening there. But
yeah, I didn't either. It seems like the supernova killed you still. It's just you didn't get to see it the whole time. There's a way that you can see it when it happens, but for the most part, I was not able to see it each time.
Yeah.
Except maybe once.
But I loved the Stranger as a space station itself. It is so cool.
I thought that they were going to do the countdown time thing that for the dam. When the dam breaks, that's when everyone dies, and then you restart and you go back and do it again.
Yes.
And I remember the first time the dam broke, I was on the other side of it, basically, and I was like, what the heck? Because you can hear it. It's really loud. And you look up, and you see that the dam broke, and I'm like, holy crap, because I could see earlier on that it was leaking, and I was like, all right, we'll see. And you just watch the water just like go all the way up till it hits you. And I went ahead and got on some high ground, and it didn't kill me, so I was like, all right, now what?
Yeah.
But you still have a good, 10 minutes after that, I think.
Yeah. But it took me back getting inside of it to the first time I played Halo, and I wouldn't even consider myself like a Halo fan.
Yeah.
But there is something about the concept of the Halo ring that always just fascinated me. I just would play that game and purely to take a pause from the actual shooting and just go look up
that was
into
cool.
the sky as the Halo ring goes up and just be like, that's so sick.
I remember that.
This is like a significantly smaller version of that.
Way smaller, because the Halo one's so big it basically disappears in the day
during
sky.
The daytime. Yeah,
you can see it, but it's faint.
Yeah, exactly. But there's something about that concept that just always fascinating me. So, I mean, almost any time I was even riding an elevator and it's going up, and I'm seeing through the elevator shaft to water above me, in the river
that was so disorienting.
Around. It was just that is just so cool.
Yeah.
I love the setting for this DLC. I think the level design here is absolute top class.
I think
the
so.
way that they have incorporated all of their puzzles, which are all extremely clever, and the way that they've designed this little world, which can seem like it's going to be very overwhelming at first, I'm going to get lost. But you can really quickly you figure it out, know your bearings, memorize where things are at. The way that the buildings are designed, the way that they're laid out, everything makes it so that it's easy to remember where things are. It's quick to get to them. I love the whole river concept as traveling between places. It's almost
you get on the raft and it's very quick. Yeah.
It's almost like when you go to a major theme park and they've always got that rafting themed river ride where everyone sits in the little tube.
Yeah, that's right.
And it goes down the river. Yeah. It's, again, kind of backyard exploration feel designed to this that I just thought was super clever. Even the parts where the hooks will come down and grab it and bring it up feel like a theme park almost.
Yeah, totally.
Or lift it above the dam and take it to the other side.
The ride is over.
It's just great. It's so unique. I've just never played anything that quite felt like this game does. Anything that's super high concept, space exploration game, usually tries to go for that, super realistic, sort of shiny, sterile spaceship feel to everything.
I thought that's what we were getting, because when we first show up at this place, you see the back of it kind of, and you show up through kind of just the side of it, and it looks very high tech and metal and all that.
Yeah, right.
But as soon as you enter in, as you do the thing and the doors kind of spin and then open, and you walk in and everything's made of wood.
Yep.
That was very strange, right? But also there's this strange element of technology as well. like mostly fire or light based,
like
I guess.
Green flame.
Yeah. But for the most part, it's just everything's made of wood, right? And I was like, whoa, this is strange. Like, this is an advanced species, but they're building little log cabins for themselves still, right?
Yeah.
Now, it's very similar to our species,
The
really.
Harthians.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, I really can't emphasize enough, because I've been kind of trying to look a little bit into people's thoughts on this DLC. We talked about the horror stuff already, but even some people who just say, I really bounced off during this. I just got really tired of the dying and trying to go back and over and over and over and over again.
If there was one point where I was stuck and didn't know what to do, and I spent a whole cycle, and then I died, and that was very frustrating to have made zero progress. You know, I'm used to whenever I go back into the ship after I die, and I go to the log, and it's like boom, 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 boom. Yep. I'm used to that, and when I didn't get that, after having done a whole cycle, I was so unbelievably frustrated. But luckily, I was able to kind of get past that. But that is frustrating. I do sympathize with that.
I do too.
This one had that where I never really got that on the other planets.
Yeah,
I always was able to do something productive.
Yeah, I want to say, first of all, I think it's a completely valid sort of point of criticism for the whole game as a whole, but even more so for this particular thing. I think you can bump into that frustration you're talking about a little bit more. However, for me, for some reason, when I ended up finding what the solution was, like sometimes when I'm playing a game and I get stuck on something for a long time, and then I figure it out, I'm even more frustrated afterwards
because of how stupid it was.
That's so dumb.
Or how did they expect me to know that?
Right.
Yeah.
Those types of feelings.
Yeah.
How could anyone have figured this out without a guide? Or, that solution was just stupid. Like, anyway, or you just randomly stumble upon it or whatever. Even there, because there were a couple points here where I felt legitimately pretty stuck. Like I didn't know what to do. I felt like I had gotten to the end of it, where I was just trying to free the prisoner at this point. I had pretty much seen all of the reels and learned the whole story, but I could not figure out how to free the prisoner. There was a couple of points where it's like, what do I do now? And I remember being stuck on it probably for a couple cycles, and then I see the solution, and I don't feel that. I feel that's really cool.
You think it's cool, yeah.
That was nice. They got me. That's actually really smart.
Yeah.
Every time I reached a solution to a puzzle, even that I was stuck on, I said, okay, that's actually really sweet.
Yeah.
I love that. That's clever. That's smart. That's really good design. That I should have known that because they gave me this hint back here that's the solution. So
that's good.
It wasn't like how could they have ever expected me to figure that out? It's not that kind of thing. They give you everything you need. And I feel like the whole game is brilliantly designed for this reason. Because any solution to any problem that you come across in the game is hinted at or given a really good clue somewhere. You just need to go find the clue and put it together. And but for the main game, that's going between these planets.
Yeah.
Here
different
it's
places.
like all compressed and all contained in this excellently designed set of levels.
Yeah.
That I really came out of this DLC experience feeling like this is some of the best level design I've ever seen in a game, period. I mean, we talk about like Mario games being masterclass and like almost like the original precedent of how you design a game without tutorializing it and like teaching people how to play it through just how you design your levels.
That's right.
And this is like a great example of that, but in a 3D space, not like a 2D platformer.
Right.
A much more complex world to construct.
That's true.
And never needing tutorialization at any point, really. You really can just go out there and figure it out. And they're constantly hinting at you and pointing you in the right direction, whether it's visually, whether it's through the reels or the Nomai writings or whatever. I just feel like this game is spectacularly well designed, like basically on every level. And it was at a new sort of better level here than even in the main game, I felt. So I'm sure because there are even people in our own Discord who were talking about how frustrated they got with this DLC.
Yeah.
And I just personally never felt frustrated. I felt I was like applauding the developer the whole time. Like, wow, nice, that's clever, good job. Wow, that's so cool. Wow, that's so cool. Wow, that's so cool. Every time a new thing, I figured out a new thing. So, now, all that having been said, I think the best way maybe to approach summarizing this, because again, you can kind of figure things out, not necessarily in a specific order, but
yeah.
I think that the best way to put this is, so you enter the vessel itself, there's a river that goes across the inside of the Taurus, right?
And right to the right, there's that ghost matter building. That's got
yes.
I just had that pathway memorized. Every time I would die, I'm like, okay, die, go here, turn right, go to the house, grab the thing, come back out, get on the water raft thing, and like go to wherever I'm going now.
That's actually a good point.
It was well designed in that sense, right?
I felt like by the time I was done with this, I had completely mastered the controls and the understanding of physics of how the game works.
Oh, yeah.
I was flying through this.
Yeah.
Boosting with just the right amount to like land right there and turn and get up there into that thing, and boosting back over and pushing, and like even directing the raft with the lights.
That was hard at first.
Yeah.
But I got pretty good at that.
It got to a point where like I never bumped anything, even rocks during like the rapids. I'm just like flying through this and like up here and then grab this thing. Blah, blah, blah. They're just going through it so fast.
Oh, that's so fun.
That there's a sense of mastery that came from it that was really kind of exhilarating,
really satisfying.
Cool. Yeah. So even though you are, I also didn't experience much repeating of content because once you discover one thing here, you don't have to do that again. Now we're going somewhere else.
Right. Yep.
Okay, now we finished that and we're going somewhere else. I felt like at the end of each loop, until the very end of it when I got stuck, I was doing something new every time.
Yeah, mostly.
And so
me too.
that would, I think, help explain maybe why I didn't experience the same kind of frustration with repetition that maybe other people did. But
you know, we should bring up, they have a sort of like a halfway point towards fast travel that they kind of introduced here.
Yes.
After the very first time you discover it, and then you show back up, the guy at the very beginning with the campfire, he tells you, hey, just so you know, you can lock on to things from your log, I guess, or from your ship before you go in. You don't have to like look for it and find it, because this thing is very difficult to find.
Yes.
And so we were able to lock onto it and just travel there a lot quicker after the first time that you show up there. That did help with some of the frustration of having to go back every time over and over. I was able to, probably in under 2 minutes, get back in, basically back to where I was.
Yes.
And that's pretty good.
It's really good.
Yeah.
And this was something you could do even in the main game, but for some reason I never did. I always flew manually and landed manually on things.
You can like lock on to it if you use your scanner thing, like
Yeah, right. And then by locking onto it, it tells you, okay, you need to go this way more.
Yes, that whole thing.
In order to align with it.
Yeah.
And of course, holding the A button will like match speed with it or whatever.
Yes.
But I'm talking about like when you lock onto something and you hit, I think it's down on the D-pad, and it just automatically flies you to the thing. You don't have to touch your controls at all.
Yeah, I prefer, because it's not that long to go. This goes back to our Wind Waker discussion.
Yes.
It's not that far away.
Yes.
And it's actually really fun. I really enjoy slowly and then exponentially watching the planet get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. It gives me like almost that sense I was talking about earlier of vertigo.
Yeah.
Kind of, where just like this sense of awe. I really hate to miss that.
Yeah, I didn't do that in the main game. I did it only to get back onto the stranger, because it's just it's invisible anyway.
Yeah, and then you lock on. Yeah,
just lock on autopilot there. I would usually go back and look at my log while it's like flying and like check. Okay, I want to go here this time. Go back in the front seat. I've arrived in time. Spin my ship, land, take off.
Nice.
Right.
Yeah, you have to spin it because I kept landing upside down.
Dude, I figured out.
That was so funny.
I figured out exactly the right like orientation based on the constellations around.
Oh, really?
So I could flip my ship to where I saw what looks like a Big Dipper type constellation.
Okay.
Would come into the right top right corner of my view, and it's like, okay, now I'm aligned with where I'm going to like land directly.
Nice, dude, nice.
So I would always spin right to there, boom, and then I could land really quick, jump out, boost, go through the door, grab on the thing. And again, like you're saying, it's like in 2 minutes or less, you're back to where you were.
Less.
And so that limits the frustration, I think,
Yeah.
a lot. I think they did a good job of allowing you to get back and start again really quickly.
Yeah.
But anyways, let's talk about like what you actually discover here. So on the vessel itself,
the antler people.
Yeah,
you see like portraits of them in the houses.
Yeah, they have. I really liked that they did this as a way of differentiating or sort of doing something different from what the main game was, which is translating all of the writings.
Yes, I thought at some point we would be able to, and you weren't able to either, right? You never got a way to translate what they wrote?
I don't know if there is a way to do that.
I don't think so. I just was making sure I didn't miss something. Yeah, you don't, it's not about reading that stuff. It's about
watching the reels.
Seeing the images. Yeah.
I loved that they replaced that as the new way of learning the story this time. It made it more exciting. I think if there was more just translating, that could have started to feel a little samey or repetitive to me.
Sure.
So I really enjoyed this as a visual way of getting across the story. And I mean, we were filmmakers, and I've always loved old projectors.
Oh,
It's just a cool technology, right?
Yeah.
And so learning to put the green lanterns in because for a long time I was like, how do I light this thing? I tried to shoot my flashlight in it. You couldn't see very well.
Yeah, you could almost see something when you'd shine your flashlight in, but it wasn't. But you can't control it while doing that. Right.
So I tried shooting my probe on it, which would cast a bright light.
Ah, nice.
And then I would go down and try to flip it, but it's so bright that I can't see anything really.
Oh, that's funny.
And I was like, okay, this is not how this is supposed to go. That was my first loop. My first loop was basically just being in awe of the place.
Yeah.
And being like, I have no idea how to watch these reels. And then the second time I got there, I realized, they actually give you a green lantern really early on.
Right. Yeah.
That's probably what's supposed to go in there.
But it's not. So it's like there's the lanterns. It's not like the fire one though, right?
No, that's a different artifact. Yeah, just the green lantern.
Differentiates what one.
Yeah. So you put the green lantern inside, and then you go and you grab different reels and you watch them. And what's fascinating about on this initial sort of landing on the station, all of these reels have parts of them that are destroyed.
Yeah.
I became more and more suspicious over time
intentionally
that these were redactions, not like degradations due to natural causes.
They seemed intentional. At first, I was like, oh man, the end of the reel. But there were certain times where it was like the middle was taken out, or it became pretty clear to me too that.
So whoever did this. These people did some stuff they didn't want others to find out about. And so that got me like immediately suspicious. I was like, okay, this isn't just this thing's been here forever, maybe too much light exposure. And these specific ones got burned out. These people did not want me to see this. Yeah. And so that really started piquing my interest. That's when I started to get like super hooked into this. I was like, okay, what do they not want me to know? So you continue exploring. I pretty much got through exploring the entire, I'll call it the main station, right? Before like figuring out that there's this whole dream element.
Yeah, me too.
And so essentially what happened was these aliens were out, doing their astronomy, scanning the cosmos. They got
telescopes.
They're actually from a pretty nearby star
system. Yeah, they were close. Yeah. So they were able to see it pretty easily. In fact, through with the slides, we see that somebody was able to get the signal from just like a telescope. Just like looking eyes into a telescope.
Yes.
It wasn't through instruments or something else.
Yeah, and this is actually a pretty interesting fact about this particular species is I don't even think they were nearly as advanced technologically as like the Nomai were. Because the Nomai had like warp technology.
Yeah.
And we're all over different galaxies. And
they showed how the strangers were able to make it here. They had to like strip mine their entire planet. Like they destroyed their planet.
And they redacted that part originally.
Originally. Yeah. You didn't see this till later on. They destroyed their planet making this spaceship to go to the eye of the universe.
Yes, right.
Like they ruined their whole way of life, their whole society, the planet that they grew up on. And that There was something what you just said that was that made me bring that up.
The level of technology.
Oh yeah, their level of technology wasn't so the extent that they had to go to make this to go a shorter distance than the Nomai lent itself towards just like brute force.
Yep.
Like instead of having some good technology where they were able to find a way to warp there, they were just like, hey, if we use every resource on this entire planet, we would have enough fuel to barely make it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And like, okay, let's just do it with what we got.
Stripped it bare. Yeah.
So they did it. And they were not happy.
Yeah. So
when they got here, so it wasn't worth it.
Yeah. So they arrive in our system, and I thought this was really cool too. Even if you're just looking at some of these reels, this was a really, really long time ago. There was no interloper in the system yet.
That's
so
right.
This was before the Nomai.
This is before the Nomai.
And
That's
there was
true.
no bramble seed inside of that planet. It was a normal
that's right.
planet.
That's right.
So, like,
Yeah.
this is way before the bramble seed infested whatever that planet
Yep.
was, and way before the interloper arrived, and way before the Nomai got here.
So
So this is
way
a
before.
super long time ago.
Yeah, like millions, billions.
So they arrive, they make contact with the Eye of the Universe, which was much easier at this time
Yeah.
because they were the ones who put this sort of cloaking or suppression device on the thing and made it so that it's almost impossible to find.
Right.
So the reason the Nomai struggled so bad and we
Yeah.
struggled so bad to find this thing is because of what these people did to like lock
Yeah.
it away. Because what they found out was, oh, the Eye of the Universe, its purpose is to destroy our universe and create a new one. And they learned this through some pretty cool imagery. It's like they make contact with sort of like red color, sort of like fills the space. It shows planets like dissolving. It shows their own people sort of dying, and then from the bones like growing like grass and like new life on
over
it.
their skulls.
Yeah.
And then it showed one of the strangers, and he like gets really mad.
Yeah,
right?
the one who made contact, he was pissed.
Yeah.
Because what you're saying,
He felt
we
betrayed.
sacrificed everything to get here.
Yep.
We had worshipped this thing.
Yep.
They had shrines, they had like temples
just like the Nomai
built
did.
to it.
Yeah.
And
they burned it down.
They burned them down.
They burned down their churches. Yeah.
And they were like, nope, we reject that. And
Yeah.
I think this is super key thematically to the whole thing we had already talked about last week about acceptance of
Yeah.
mortality and all these things. They rejected it. They fought
Yeah.
it. They said, no, we're going to do whatever it takes now to preserve our consciousness forever.
And to just live forever.
And so they started a project where they could essentially, they have these green flames, and I'm not sure what it is, if it's a technology or if it's like a natural resource from their planet. Or
I wonder
what.
that too, because there are also red or normal color fire, orange flames
Yes.
on the place too. So
Yes.
the fact that it's green, I don't know what makes it green.
I don't either.
Yeah. It's a bit of a mystery.
What seems different about it from normal fire, I mean, would be that it can burn everlastingly. So it's not like
that's right.
consuming a fuel.
So it's more like
I don't know how that would work,
Yeah.
but that's the defining difference for me in terms of its
Yeah.
properties to normal fire.
That's right. It
And
just
it would
goes forever.
It would have to, because these people's fire has to burn forever for them to stay in their little dream simulation state, right? So they have some kind of fire that can burn forever unless it's doused by water, because again, that's when you're in the dream world, the way to wake up from it is to like go in the water and douse the fire.
Yeah, that's right,
and
yeah.
wake up.
Yeah.
So anyway, they started these experiments where they were going to upload their consciousness into this simulation that would look like their planet. I actually really loved that reel.
Yeah.
That showed them after having contacted the Eye of the Universe. They sit down in their ship and they just play a movie of like images from their planet.
Yep.
And they're just like breaking down sad. We destroyed our world for this.
Yeah.
How could we have done that? And so they decide to make it again, to build their world again, but in a simulated form. And they would
Right.
just put their consciousness into it and live inside of their little world forever.
The metaverse. I think
Yes,
you call it the metaverse.
exactly.
There's probably others, but yeah, it's all stuff that our society's going through right now.
Sure.
There's the what do you do? Nobody wants to die, and what would it be? Gosh, I don't know. There's a lot of this kind of stuff happening now. Just this denial of just like the idea that maybe we could just live forever and that would be a good thing. I don't know why. It reminds me a lot of Numenor, actually, from the Silmarillion. Don't want to turn this all into a Lord of the Rings podcast.
I also want to add to this point that we have had a guest on the podcast in the past named Keith.
Is it lifespan.io?
Yes. And he contacted me after last week's episode. Anytime we kind of touch on this topic, he kind of like, hey, I'm looking forward to talking about this. So I want to make sure that, now I'm not saying that to like, I like hearing from him. He is really, really cool. I respect the guy like immensely.
Yeah.
So we're going to have a longer conversation in the future. I'm thinking around the time we cover Lost Odyssey on this podcast. I think that'll be a good game to do this on.
That'll be fun.
Where we will explore the opposite, probably thematic concept, or maybe like the pro side to life extension or eternal life.
To living forever,
instead of the side of it in which we've seemed to come together on mostly when we've talked about this in the past, which is eternal life is... it's not even so much that I want to say it's bad as much as I want to say it's not possible. So you might as well accept reality because if you try to fight reality, at least for our generation, like as far as we're concerned, we're not going to live forever.
No, the mortal experience is not one that I want to prolong forever.
I don't want to anyways.
Right.
But even if it were possible, I probably would choose not to. However, it's not possible anyways for us, and it won't be in our lifetimes, I think.
Yeah, to extend.
So because of that, you have to wrestle and grapple and accept and do all the stuff we're talking about anyways. So my points are usually around that reality. My points on this topic are, this is the reality. The only way you can live a life that you feel fulfilled by when it comes to an end, and that you're not sitting there regretting and or fearful of when it's coming to an end. There really is a beauty, I believe, to accepting and seeing that come to an end, and knowing that something better will come after.
Sure. Yeah.
That what you did in this life set the stage or the groundwork for something to come after that will be even better. But it requires you to go. I feel like people who stay for too long, even if we're not talking about death, we're talking about in positions of power. We're talking about if you reach a peak and then you start to you need to let it go, and someone else needs to come take over, or else you'll just stagnate. You're not going to actually keep progressing as a society. So there's a real necessary sort of like generational passing of the torch that needs to happen, and this goes from, again, the local level to the cosmic level, I think is kind of what this game is using as a metaphor for this. So these people decided to reject this concept of accepting their mortality and accepting the consequences of what they've done. Because one thing that is always a debate, I don't think it matters what age or time or society, is this idea of conserving the past versus progressing into the future.
Right. And how do you have both?
Yeah. How do
That's
you
like
find a balance of both? Or some people don't want a balance. Some people just want to go back.
Sure.
We want to go backwards.
Or they just want to
This was better. We
forwards.
were better back then. Or no, I reject everything about the past. It was awful and it was all bad. And we need to completely destroy that foundation and do something totally different. Right. These people conflict all the time in societies. So what I really loved about this was that it seems these people had the mindset, that like totally progressive mindset at one time, in which was we don't care about stripping our world
cares
bare
about our
and
planet?
Preserving our planet and preserving our past. All we care about is the eye of the universe. We worship this thing now. Then they learn what it really is, and they all do a hard 180
flip.
And
That's
regret
a good point.
having done that. So I think that there is room to say that it is a bad thing. It can be a really bad thing to completely reject where you come from.
Oh, for sure.
And to not preserve any parts of it that are good.
Right.
It really, and again, at the same time, you don't want to get so stuck there that you're not moving forward, because you will stagnate, and well, it's impossible to do anyways. You can't preserve something forever. That's the whole point. It's literally not possible to do. Your dam is going to break down over time. You're going to get a hull breach in your freaking space station.
Yeah. Or a random freaking meteor is going to come out of nowhere, and you could never have predicted it.
Yeah. It's impossible. So why you need to be able to let go as well. It's more of like an Eastern philosophy that I've really, really started to resonate with, like the older I get, which is, how do I put this? I think, I don't want to butcher it, but I think it's more or less the idea of love like your life with like all of the energy you have, but don't be attached to it.
Right.
There's
That's
a difference between the two things.
Yes.
And for a lot of people, it seems antithetical.
I don't think you even necessarily have to go into the East. I think that that's alive in the Western tradition.
Oh, I'm sure
it's just not as obvious.
Yeah.
You got to kind of search a little bit. But I think that idea is also alive in Christianity as well.
Sure.
And probably others as well. Well, Hinduism for sure, but
yeah, I think.
Yeah, but the idea of giving of yourself and just letting go, right? And come what may.
The idea being, and this is an ideal. It's not something I feel like I've reached or probably ever will. But the idea being, I can love this person in my life with all my heart and soul, but if that person were gone tomorrow, it wouldn't destroy me to such a degree to where I couldn't focus or live my life. I could celebrate the time I had with that person and appreciate it and be grateful for that and have it not totally just darken my soul and ruin me.
Yeah.
I think that's what this is all about. It's about being able to give all of your energy and love into something and really, really appreciate it and be grateful for it with all your heart. And really feel all the good that comes with the love without the attachment that can completely derail your life.
Yeah, I 100% agree.
Yeah.
I 100% agree.
So I feel like that's sort of the idealistic balance to find in this sort of context that we're talking about here. Whether you're talking about what direction should we take the policies of our country, whether you're talking about should we pursue this strange anomaly we found in the sky that we think might be God.
Right.
Whether it's, do I want another child?
Right.
Whether anything from that level to that level, this concept I think applies.
Right.
You want to live in such a way to where you're not attached so much that you can't see clearly, that you're blinded, that you become wrathful. Obsessive, fearful, so fearful of losing that you sort of degrade as a person.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you don't want to be so unattached, I guess, to where you're cold and you're not actually enjoying or loving the experiences of your life, and you're just sort of floating through it in this totally like, I don't know what word I'm really looking for, but like unattached, cold way.
Right.
So when I say unattached, I don't mean like there's a couple definitions for that. But
well, because it's easy to be unattached to things if you just don't love.
If you don't
anything.
care about it.
Yeah, if you don't care. I don't think that's what you're saying.
That's not what I'm saying.
You're saying kind of the opposite. Like you immerse yourself in it.
Yes.
Right. Like experience and observe and be part of it. But don't let it consume you, and don't be so attached.
That's a good way to put it.
That's so hard to put, though.
When you become attached, that thing is almost sort of controlling you.
Yeah, that's kind of what Nietzsche talks about.
Right? Like, like your fear over, say, losing this now rules over you.
Especially if it's money.
Yes.
Or something that's utilitarian.
We talked about this in, I don't know if it was Near or if it was...
Near quotes Nietzsche directly
Xenosaga?
on this type of thing. Yeah,
where like being what was it? It was to be modestly.
Yes, that's from Thus Spake Zarathustra.
Yeah.
Blessed be moderate poverty.
Moderate poverty.
I think it was moderate poverty.
Because the idea is, the more you have, like the more attached to your stuff you'll be, and then the more fearful of losing it, and then you just
because you at some point you don't own your stuff owns you.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Like if you would go into a burning building to get some of your stuff.
Yes.
That stuff has a body, it's your body, and that stuff has a mind, it's your mind, and that stuff wants to live, and you're going to risk your own life to enable your stuff to live.
Yeah.
And that's not the best way to approach life.
Exactly. So hopefully all that makes sense. But I feel like,
I like
that's kind of what this whole DLC is touching on, right? The theme from the main game, as we discussed last week, is all about letting go. It's like, you know, as I went through the ending again, now that I've got the prisoner, and there's some differences in the ending if you've got him for that part. I'm looking at some of the dialogue between the other travelers right at the end, and like Gabriel talking about, it makes you grateful that you spent the time to sort of smell the pines along the way.
On the way,
There's this attitude, this feeling in the midst of accepting the end, where you're still grateful and appreciative, but you're able to let it go.
Right.
That's where you want to be in life. You want to be in a space where you can have all of the enjoyment and pleasure and love from the experiences you have, without the fear of losing them that keeps you from being able to let it go when it's time.
Right.
Because you're going to have to.
Right.
I mean, that's the
no
point.
Choice. No choice.
There's just no other way. You will lose people. You will lose things. You will lose jobs. You will lose money. You will lose a lot in this life.
Yeah.
And if you're not ready to do that, if you're not good and practiced at being able to let go of things and be like, I'm okay with that, I am grateful for the time I had with that thing. That really enriched my life. I learned a lot. And take that and let that thing go, then your life's going to be a lot harder. You're making it harder on yourself. It is really the point. It's your life is only harder because you can't let go. But I know that this is very unintuitive for the way that some people think. Some people think, well, if you're able to just let it go, then did you really care? I can see where that might seem intuitive to people, but I really believe that's not love, that's fear. That's more fear than love. That's fear of loss more than it is loving the thing.
That's actually a good point. Yeah.
So anyway, I feel like that's what the territory we're stepping into with these aliens here. They feared loss of the universe. When they learned about this, they were willing to originally lose their planet, strip it bare, totally destroy it. But then when they were going to lose their own lives and they were going to lose everything in the universe, then it was, oh no, that's too far. Now we got to get revenge on the eye of the universe for this.
So they were okay with destroying everything so long as it served them.
Yes.
Right. So they elevated themselves to a point where they were just like the top.
Yes.
And as soon as they found something above them that either they could have to be subservient to, or that they couldn't dominate. They couldn't just like extract all the use from it for themselves. They all of a sudden, like, they couldn't handle it.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a great point.
They wanted to pretend it didn't exist, even though it's there, right?
Yes.
They were just kind of hiding the truth from everybody.
Yes.
Because they found something greater than themselves. That's
a great point. As long as it served them to do so, it was okay to sacrifice. Once it served something higher than themselves, it was no longer okay to sacrifice.
No.
And this is why I think that these particular aliens could have served as such amazing horror villains.
Yes, that's right.
That's like they're projecting their fear into how they try to stop you. But really, that's what could have been so brilliant about this, is when you step out of the matrix, so to speak, it's totally not scary anymore. I felt so empowered when I figured that out.
Yeah,
I was like, I can drop my lantern and I could walk out of it, and these dudes can't even see me anymore.
Yeah.
I felt like Neo at the end of the Matrix, where it's like, I see it for what it really is. And they have willingly trapped themselves in it, and they can't see it for what it is anymore.
Oh, that's a good point.
Because they're so afraid.
Yeah.
So really, they, in the beginning, are these horrible, frightening creatures out there trying to get you, trying to kill you. But like, you start to see them for what they really are, and it's like they're just projecting their fear.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm not actually afraid of you. I see this for what it all is. It was just, I felt that anyways, but I felt like that could have been even more powerful.
It could have.
And that would have just blown my freaking mind. That would have just completed this as nothing will ever touch this as far as my favorite game ever. Had they like gone that extra step in terms of really heightening the horror vibes in the beginning. And then you step out of it like Neo in the Matrix, and it's just like, you're the one now. And like, it's like, I actually pity you guys. You're the ones who are afraid, not me.
You know what's funny?
Right?
They kind of made that whole, I don't want to say digital. What would you call it? That whole
like, it is like a digital world.
It's like that, sure.
But it's also kind of like a dream. So
yeah. So they created that to sustain themselves, right? But it sounds like they started to believe their own lie.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
And so that's why they can't even see outside of the little thing that they put themselves in. They basically put themselves into a prison, a forever prison.
Yes.
And the only thing that's keeping them from moving on is their fear of dying.
Yes.
That's the only thing.
Yes.
And they are going to live forever in their sins, so to speak. Right? They're like, oh, no, we don't know what happens when you die, so we're going to avoid that. We're just going to make hell right now, and we're just going to literally live forever in our own sins, and it's going to be awful. Yeah. That was one of the theories of why Adam and Eve couldn't go back in and eat the tree of life after the tree of knowledge of good and evil.
Right.
Was because, oh no, then they're going to live forever in their sins, right?
Yes.
That would be horrible, right? No, go. And here we see these the strangers, and it's like that's exactly what they did. They have to live with the guilt of destroying their own home planet forever, just because they're so afraid of letting go and dying.
Yes. Now here's where it really all comes together for me. We're talking about sort of literal damnation, the living forever in your sins concept.
And it's something that you do to yourself.
It's not lost on me that the dam breaks when we arrive.
Oh, that's a good point. How about
the damnation ends upon our arrival to intercede in this.
So you remember when Gandalf says that the coming of Merry and Pippin will be like the falling of the first few stones that starts an avalanche, right? So we show up, and then, of course, the Treebeard breaks the dam and all that. Yeah, but, it's all because of Merry and Pippin. Right. It's like we show up and we precipitate. Symbolically, that's really cool.
Yes.
I like that a lot.
They were literally trapped.
And here's the crazy thing.
Yeah.
The star is going to supernova, and from what I can tell, they did not escape in time.
No.
They're going to die anyways.
Exactly.
At some point, a random rock is going to fall on your head when you're 1,012 years old, and it's going to happen, right?
Yes.
You are just going to die. Even with whatever they did, they took all these precautions. Like, no, we won't even live in the real world. Our body's going to be in this place, and we're going to be in this other world, so we'll be perfectly safe. It's like, no.
It's the hubris of it. Like, the denial of reality and the fact that even with everything they went through to put this elaborate plan together, it was doomed to fail anyways. They were going to die anyways.
Yes. And there's no avoiding it. And all they were going to do is just force themselves, anyways. And all they really did is just hide anyone else from finding the eye of the universe. But once they're dead, who cares? But that's still like their goal, right? Like all the way until the end.
Yeah.
Like nobody can find out.
Yeah. So anyways, let's get back to, so the reals in the real world, not their dream world, right, are redacted. But as you go into their dream world and you find the reals in full, you get like the full story, which basically describes everything we've just said. Yeah. So they left their world, they stripped it bare, they came here, they found out what the eye really did, they rejected that, they sort of built this this little digital world that they could live in forever. There's a couple of really cool details in this that all end up being hints for how to solve puzzles that I just, even though I was stuck for a little bit, I thought was so brilliant. Yeah. Like they show that one point where a living stranger goes into they're like tracking his vital signs while he's in the dream world or whatever.
Oh yeah.
And then like they bring an older person in, but like the person happens to die like right at the point where they were going to put them into the dream world, but their consciousness still went into the dream world. So their body died, but their consciousness still survived inside of the system.
It's like, ooh, we figured out the secret.
Yes. So you can die, but still be in the system. And it took me forever to piece that together.
A good hint.
Because because they talk about the bells, right? Those bells that will.
The red ones? The red?
They wake you up. So if you approach them, they bing, 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 and then your real body wakes up on the outside. Yeah. And so it's a way of keeping you from getting into certain places they didn't want you to go. Yeah. It's like a trap for any living being who were to show up and try to like get their secrets. Right. Because they're all dead. Right. All of them are dead now. I mean, when you go into those rooms with the little green fire and they're sort of...
It's creepy, man.
It's really creepy, a really cool visual. But those are all corpses. Yep. None of them are alive anymore.
Except one is empty.
Yes.
That was just the suggestion of that was pretty creepy for me.
That's what I was talking about. But unfortunately, it didn't go where I was hoping it would go, which is that real guys would still be around.
Like in the real
life. Yeah. Anyway, I'm past that now. But yeah, you have to die. You have to kill yourself in that room by standing in the fire. In order to get past those bells, because they won't wake you up, because there's no one to wake up because you're dead on the outside. Yep. Your consciousness is what's survived here. So that's like one way of getting past those puzzles, which is just super clever. They again, stepping out of the matrix, I keep calling it, where you can see the whole simulation, because it's really dark everywhere. It's nighttime, and the way that it's lit makes it so that it feels like this connected, cohesive world. And then you step out of it and everything's brighter and you go, oh, wait a minute. There's literally just like 4 pockets and there's like a loading screen in between. There's like a literal loading screen in between.
That's right, yeah. That's pretty funny.
And the whole illusion falls apart.
Right.
And it's so cool the way that it does, because that's when you realize, well, you could also get the reel that shows you this, but you can jump off the boat in between loading areas to get to where the prisoner actually is at.
That's right.
And that's where you actually free him. So, I don't know. I just thought it was incredibly clever. I thought thematically it built off of what was done in the main game in a really brilliant way. Sort of.
Oh, yeah. It all builds towards that same theme.
Yeah, so good. And cool new mechanics with the flames and the other artifacts that you find. I don't really know what else to say about it at this point. I think we've basically covered everything I wanted to talk about.
Okay.
Other than I just really, really loved it. The only thing, literally, the one and only thing that I think I wish they had just gone further on that horror aspect of it, because I think it would have served the story even more so to do that. But it's just fantastic. Just absolutely fantastic. Loved it. Freaking loved it.
I think the Strangers could have done with some good fantasy. I feel like sometimes people need to experience new worlds and to experience possibilities with imagination and to understand. I don't know. I feel like fantasy can actually help a lot when it comes to things of this nature in particular, where it can help people to kind of, I don't know, just imagine a different world, or where it can help people to maybe escape, like where they're at right now, just a little bit, not like in a attached negative way. Don't become attached to the fantasy too much. But yeah, these guys could have told better stories. Maybe that's a better way of putting it.
That's a good way of putting it.
I feel like their stories, I don't know. I don't think that whatever story they were telling themselves, which was we're the best and we're going to live forever and we can hide like literally God from everyone. Okay, not literally. I don't know. The eye of the universe, whatever you want to call it. But that we can find this precious thing and we will. Because I thought where it was going was, we're going to keep this for ourselves.
Yeah.
But instead it was like, no, we would kill it if we could.
Yeah.
We want to just make sure that it's gone forever. But yeah, they ended up going a different way with it. I wanted to read a little bit of what he says at the very end, though.
I wanted to, because I realized we hadn't talked about, maybe you did briefly, the one who went against this plan was this prisoner.
Yeah, he got thrown.
I remember the first time it was the dam broke, and so it like actually reveals the little prison barge thing that they built, and they sunk underwater.
I was wondering why there was a dam there at all. Yeah. I was like, this is weird. You guys, this isn't, dams don't last forever, especially wooden ones, right? Like this isn't good. Why did they build, it's a river. Like this is just a disaster waiting to happen.
Yeah.
But they did it, and I guess that's part of why. Like they needed to like create a lake to put their prisoner in for literally forever.
I have to read this joke from Hopeless Romantics. If this is their fantasy they're experiencing, let this be their final one.
Let it be their Oh, jeez.
Hopeless Romantics just beat FF16, so
very nice.
That's where that comes from. Anyway, so he went against the plan. He woke up. He was like, you know what? Trying to live forever in this way and like hide the eye of the universe.
Yeah. Like
from the world
point?
Is like this not it. We shouldn't be doing this.
Because if you're gonna say that, and I mean this literally like a point, right? Yeah. If you're gonna say what's the point of the universe, not like don't think of it too deeply in terms of purpose or whatever. Just what's the point? Like what is the point of the universe? The point is the eye of the universe. And basically, by covering it up, they made the universe pointless.
Yeah, right.
Like specifically. and so then somebody wakes up and he's just like, we just discovered like the point of the universe, and we deleted the point from the universe.
Yeah.
What's the point, right?
Yeah.
Like, what is the point? What are they doing here? So he just kind of wakes up. He's kind of groggy, and he basically just undoes the whole thing so that the signal can blast out for what, like 5 seconds,
for a little bit,
really brief, but long enough for the Nomai to catch it. And that's why the Nomai are like, why did the signal stop? What's wrong? What's happening?
Yes. I loved that.
Yeah,
I
very
loved
cool.
that tying into that mystery that was sort of left open-ended was, we followed the signal and now it's not emitting anymore. What happened? Well, what happened was the prisoner got caught and they freaking shut it off again.
And this is the prisoner basically intuited the idea that even his ancestors had, and also basically that everyone else in the universe would have, which is like, what's the point? Where's the point? And knew that they were just doing a disservice to everyone by hiding the point.
Yes.
And so, yeah, he uncovers it. Everyone's able to basically the eye. Now, it's strange that anyways, I don't know. It's strange that they were able to do that at all. That they were able to keep the eye from
emitting,
having a signal.
Yeah. However, they were able to do that.
That's
we talked
high
about
technology.
Yeah, we
indeed.
talked about them being like probably far behind the Nomai in terms of technology, but whatever technology they had to do that is freaking crazy.
That is something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was hard enough for the Nomai to even find the eye, and that yet, let alone these guys were able to like completely surround it and cover it up.
Yeah. I guess they do have pretty good cloaking technology, whatever
that's
it is
true.
that they have.
That's true.
They must have cloaked this signal. But anyway, so they put him in this little prison and they just sent him there to be isolated forever. Which is, I mean, that's
pretty bad.
That's about the worst. Well, it is. I can't think of anything worse. The worst possible freaking punishment for a crime that exists.
You know, that when Cain kills Abel, God is like, Cain, your punishment, you're like, I'm not gonna let anyone kill you, basically. Like, you're gonna live for like, I don't know if it says he's gonna live forever or not, but like basically his punishment was to have prolonged life, not that he was gonna die. Right. Anyways, it's just kind of funny about that.
So even in prisons, it's a controversial thing to do, what do they call it? Something isolation.
Solitary confinement.
Solitary confinement.
Yeah.
As a punishment, because it's just so cruel. It's just so bad for the human mind to be isolated in that way. And how long? I mean, how long really was this guy?
Well, before the Nomai, so more than 281 million or 1,000 years ago.
Because it's not even just because obviously his physical body died at some point in there, but his consciousness was also trapped in the simulation in isolation for eternity. Right. So really, really, really horrible, cruel punishment that they put on him for this. But I loved how when you eventually freed him, it's just like literal, just this void, and there's just like a lantern sitting in front of the void, and you just see a hand come out and grab it, and it was like creepy. It almost looked like he was going to come out and grab you, but it was like, no, let's commune. I haven't talked to him in a long time. We need to talk.
And he's got that staff that can like Vulcan mind meld, basically. It just like conveys his thoughts to you,
which was really cool. So you get like the full story that way, and then I love how you do it. He gives the staff to you, and you tell the rest of the story. Then the Nomai came, and then the ghost matter killed them, and then we arose, and then I figured all this stuff out, and now I've come talk to you. And it's super appreciative of our, knowledge. Yeah. And then sort of like leaves this little prison he was built in, and leaves the staff by some water with a symbol of the two of them sort of riding off together.
Towards an ever brightening sun.
Yeah, right. And then, then getting to your note here, which was what he says
at the very
end, at the eye of the universe, which I loved it. I loved this.
That was wonderful. When my kind found the eye and realized what it was capable of, they were terrified. It was too difficult a truth. Like a light too bright to look upon directly, it burned them. What they could not unlearn was hidden away in darkness, obfuscated and then lost. They did not want to see their story end. My kind weren't always like this. We weren't always so afraid. I did what I could to set things right, yet I am still of my kind, and you know now what they did. I cannot promise our fear won't stain your mind, and so, as a choice, are you certain that you want to remember me?
Loved that last part. Loved it.
Very, very
because it gives a little bit more light into what this birth of the new universe really is, and really signifies, I think, with certainty, we are the observer of the new universe.
Yes, I think so.
Because the new universe is going to come from our mind.
Yes.
So do you really want my memory and what my people did, our sins, to be a part of your mind? Because that's going to go into the new universe.
And it changes. The ending screen, the 14.3 billion years later thing, there's new stuff in it that wasn't there before.
Yeah. But you can tell them no. You can be like, we appreciate everything you did, to like make sure the Nomai can find the item, but your people suck and I don't want that DNA in my new which go away. You can actually say that, which I thought was powerful
in a kind way.
Because right. Like obviously you're not putting it in those terms, but I think that there's a fine point to be made in that. There are probably certain parts, that's what evolution is, that you cut out. Like these are not good genes anymore. Get rid of those.
Well, it's separating the wheat from the tares, right? Yes. It's like, hey, here's the good stuff.
I honestly think there could be a good argument made that we don't want people with with your genes who are so fearful.
Yeah.
We want people with my genes who are eager to see what happens next, or like Solanum, because I love the way she puts it. Like, we've reached the end of the journey. Man, I wish I had the dialogue in front of me. Like, are you ready to find out what happens next?
Yeah, so an observer has entered the eye of the universe. Yeah,
something like that. And then if you say yes, I admire your curiosity.
That's right.
So we're harboring or sort of like bringing together the genes of curiosity.
Yes,
those that are progressive thinking, ready to move into the next phase, not fearful of it, but like curious to see what that looks like. And that's stronger than fear. Those are the genes we want to go into the new universe to make it better, not the ones that are afraid and tried to reject that.
Yes.
We want those to evolve out of us.
Yes.
Right? But no,
there is an argument to be made for that.
But he specifically wasn't that way. He was different amongst his people.
Right.
He had the unique perspective of not being afraid. So no, your genes are good. Like, we want the rest of what's good about your people plus your curiosity to come with us.
I read it in a similar way, but I also had this other thought, right? Because we more or less, and you're able to actually see our character's face, which was fun.
Yes.
You got like two little eyes and then two huge eyes up top. And anyways, really fun. But we project ourselves onto the characters that we play, right? Mm-hmm. And as soon as this character was like, I don't know if you want me a part of your new universe, right?
Yeah.
I just think of myself in a similar way, and I'm like, why, like, would I allow myself
to get,
like, who am I to be like, no, I'm way better than you, or to think that like I don't have anything wrong in my past or in my ancestry, and so, but yet at the same time, it's almost like the eye of the universe. It's almost like if you're to compare it to a god at all, it's a forgiving god, or it's a being that can respect who you are and where you came from, regardless of. I don't know. It respects your present intent over your past mistakes.
I would put it as a God that is not fearful.
Oh, sure. Hey, how about that?
Let's say that all these things that you're bringing up are concerns.
Yeah.
Let's try it anyways.
Sure.
See what happens.
Well,
I'm curious to know.
Like, it doesn't work out. How could it not work out? There's like, do you know how many freaking stars there are? Like, do you know how many likely beings there are in our galaxy? I don't know. But some would say that at least one in every galaxy can like produce life in a way. And how many galaxies are there? I don't know. Like a trillion? I don't know. Like so freaking many. So to even say that, oh no, this next universe is going to be full of, these problems is also to say that, but like, it's not about just this one story. It's about like quadrillions of stories, like all taking place all at once, and the good and the bad and the relationship and the way that they all are similar but different and the way they're unified but separate, right? It all kind of like plays into the beauty of the whole thing, that there is no uniformity. They aren't all the same, that some people do prefer, the past traditions, and some people do prefer the future progress, and that they can all like cohere in a way if they can figure it out, and how beautiful that is. That it doesn't have to like end in one specific way, that there's going to be a quadrillion different endings, right?
Right. Exactly right. And why be afraid of it? Because
exactly.
That one will also come to an end, and then a better thing will come out of that.
And then more
it's
will
a process
will come
of evolution,
from that.
And
right.
it just continues to refining it better. And then at some point, that thing peaks and goes extinct, and then something else gets a chance, and life advances.
This is how medieval people used to end manuscripts and things. But it would say "worlds without end." That was like a common thing at the end. Or go, peace to you, my brother. I shall see you later. Worlds without end. Like it was just a common saying that people would say. It sounded really flowery and cool. But when I play this game and I get to the end and I kind of internalize what this game's saying, that's kind of the thought that comes to my mind. Is something like "worlds without end," and that brings to mind Darwin's quote at the end of the Species, Origin of Species.
Origin of Species,
where he says, "Endless forms most beautiful," right?
Yes,
like endless forms most beautiful. So that brings together like the idea of the evolution, but also the concept of like whatever is above the universe, right? Into this like worlds without end mentality of like endless forms and like literally. Yeah. Literally endless forms. Yeah. Like it will continue to just go. And the beauty of the whole thing justifies the process and its own existence.
There's a new documentary on Netflix that just came out that's being promoted a whole lot.
Yeah.
It's like the history of the world kind of thing, right? But it goes a lot into the different, what do you call them? The different extinction events and all the different like ages of the
great
world.
Filters and things.
Yeah, and so this kind of has been sparking my thoughts as I'm watching that show too. It's like, the dinosaur extinction was like actually there was an even bigger one before that, like a way worse. one.
After the Cambrian explosion, there was the
worst. I forget the name. What was the worst extinction?
Oh gosh, it was. I can't remember it either, but it's they call it one of the great filters. But it was like 99% of all life.
The Permian.
Oh, there you go.
I think it's the Permian extinction, where like basically every life form on Earth almost was completely wiped out. Yeah. I mean, that's an exaggeration, but anyway, there were these horrible extinction events over and over and over that have happened, but like had they not, like we wouldn't be here. And who are we to say that preventing our own extinction, should that come, would then prevent some better life form afterwards from following. Yeah. And that's basically what these strangers are doing here. They have such hubris and such attachment and such fear of their own deaths that they're trying to prevent that process of a better life form following them. I mean, because we can't imagine it. We're not going to be there. It's billions of years in our future.
We're getting close to something similar, which is basically, like humans creating an AI that can do everything, and humans become not the most useful creatures in the world
anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, and basically nothing is like the whole point of all life is just AI, and AI can go explore the stars now, and whatever robots that it builds for itself, and then the nihilism that follows that amongst the human race of like, well, even if you want to do something, you wouldn't do it because an AI could just do it like 12 times more efficient.
I see people having that discussion.
Yeah, that's a common one right now.
And the fear around
just become
that
Amish. Just become Amish.
Does not exist in me. I almost root for it.
Root for what?
For the AI.
Oh, okay, that's
because of what we're talking about.
That's the idea, is that it's the next form of consciousness.
Yeah, I would be totally fine if that were the case.
I personally wouldn't. I guess I'm because
I'm sure 99% of people.
Yes, I wouldn't be. At least in part because I don't care what AI does.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't, like, if a human lands on the moon, that's sick. If, robots are like, oh, we got a star, and I'm not around, and there's no consciousness left to, experience it.
Yeah.
And it's just happening, and oh, isn't that great that the robots are exploring space, and we're not there, and there's no humans. I'm like, No, I don't think that's great.
Yeah.
But that could be me being a little more humanistic, I guess,
Well,
what would the word be.
First of all, I think that's completely natural. I mean,
of course.
Evolution designed us to care for our own
Yes.
first and foremost.
Yeah.
For a reason, because that's how we propagate, and the strongest species survives longer. And
that was us.
That's the process of evolution. It's completely natural to feel that.
Yeah.
I'm coming at this from a almost an unnatural sort of curiosity, where I'm not concerned at all about the propagation or survival of my own species.
But we're the conscious observers.
But I won't be forever. I've already accepted
No,
that.
you won't be. But this game, right? The eye of the universe
you're
needs
saying in this game,
a conscious observer to connect to it.
But
right?
whether that's me or not, it is no longer an issue for me.
I agree with
I've
that.
let go of
I agree
caring
with that.
about whether my consciousness survives after this life or not. Like there's a part of me that almost feels like the non-existence, as scary a thought as that is to some people, I struggle to understand why, because you wouldn't even know it. So what's there to be afraid of?
It's the transition from existence to non-existence.
It's the scary
I
point
don't
of
think
transition.
it's the non-existence doesn't scare me, or I would think most people. You basically experience it when you go to sleep every night. You just wake up 8 hours later and you're
exactly
like, that was no time at all.
Yeah.
But the transition is what's scary, right? The like, I can't breathe, oh no, for like 5 minutes and then
the pain.
Yeah.
The pain's not something to look forward to.
I think
Surely
that's
not.
more it.
But like those few seconds, I guess, or minutes of pain.
Although your mind will stretch those out.
There's almost. I was actually watching another documentary recently about near-death experiences. It seems almost universal, as different as the stories are, because I'm sure people's beliefs play into what goes on in their brain in these moments where they're passing, or
the brain is creative.
They've died for, even some of them, like a long time, and then came back, and it was like, you should have no brain activity. All your brain cells should be dead. What the fetch? Right? It's really crazy stories like that. But it's still the part that I find universal in all the stories, as differently as they describe the afterlife, or I saw my father, or I saw this beautiful rainbow world, or whatever it is they talk about that's always different. It's universally better. It's universally, this was a good experience. This was a place
That's a good point.
Enjoyed. And
that's a good point.
The one thing that has always, that links them all together in my mind, is connectedness. They all feel connected to people that they loved. They feel connected to the universe. They feel connected.
Yeah.
And that's what's really, and this was what I was trying to like hint at last time we were talking about my own experience. It's a strong sense of connectedness that is hard to get as an individual.
Right.
But is like the default state of consciousness when you've left your ego behind.
Yes.
And that's the part that I think is beautiful and wonderful and not to be feared. But people are trapped here. They don't see that level of consciousness yet.
There's a difference. I have a hard time thinking that that consciousness itself would end in general, at least in part because
well, energy can't be destroyed.
Well, yeah, sure. And consciousness seems like, what is it? The universe cannot produce something that it itself did not contain to begin with, right? Or that it didn't contain the potential for that. Like I get like a bird, or that's just more complexity of the things, right? Yeah. But consciousness, the first person perspective that we experience as individuals, right? The experience of consciousness is something that had to latently exist in some form from the Big Bang, basically. Yeah. Like this, in order to exist at all, it had to be a thing at some point. There's no way that something like this just shows up, and that I'm me and you're you, and that just happens, and that makes sense, right? Yeah. It almost had to be like, Ian McGilchrist seems to think that it's like an ontological primitive, that consciousness is like even more basic than matter, right? Yeah. But it certainly wouldn't be the kind of consciousness that I'm experiencing right now. Right, yeah. It would likely be a higher or a different kind of thing. I don't even know. You probably wouldn't see or any of that stuff. Like it would be different. It would be more like feelings. But the efficiency of AI, which is the way that we've programmed AI to be super, super efficient, if at some point in the distant future it takes over every star in the entire universe, and it's like peak efficiency, and it's like Dyson spheres around every star, right? And it's just like, boom, we are doing so good. And I'm just like, okay, if
But
there's no
I
human,
feel like-
if there's no observer, if there's no consciousness participating in it in any way, then like it's just nothingness happening more, and it
Well,
has no
what
effect.
if the AI is conscious?
That's the question. It
and-
certainly
or
will be able to mimic it. I just
What
don't
if
know
it's
if it will
able?
actually
What if it
have
becomes
it.
able to create consciousness in
Well,
some degree?
you know what? Because what I had said previously about consciousness being something of an ontological primitive of the universe could lend itself towards the idea that consciousness is something that AI could acquire.
Sure.
Being just a property of the universe itself.
Right.
So that's possible. Now, if the AI does legit have like real, true consciousness, that's cool. Then I change my opinion. AI can colonize the stars, and I'll be like, "Good job, AI.
Good job.
You did it. I'm glad I'm dead." And you
AI will be
whatever
like
you're doing.
the ultimate life form
Yes.
that evolution's been trying from the beginning to achieve.
It's just like that. That's what it is.
We needed humans for AI, and then now go away.
But as it is now, it's just like if humans give themselves up so that this AI can just go colonize everything and just like be efficient at everything, I would consider it quite destructive, actually.
I would still. This is such a weird territory for us to be delving into, but it's fun to talk about.
It's fun.
I would still think that it's almost just a constant. It's a law of nature of this universe that all things end and new things come from them. So AI would also go through the same cycle. It would peak to some level of peak efficiency, and then it would start declining.
All its Dyson spheres would start crumbling,
and then something would go wrong, and it would end, and then another better thing would come from that, and
That's
would
probably
continue
true.
to go on for as long as the universe exists.
until heat death.
Until heat death,
Which-
and then
'cause
from that a new. I don't know if that's true. According to this
game,
but
that's something which is sort of what we mentioned earlier. The Penrose's theory about how we are in the singularity of the next universe already,
Sure.
and it's just going to be made out of this one.
Yeah.
And like how that's just crazy to think about, but it seems like that fits a little bit into
it's like
what they're talking about.
the
here.
Big Bang with some quantum level explosion that started a reaction in the quantum realm of whatever macro realm is outside of that. And it's just the first of many different explosions that start a chain reaction to that Big Bang, which is like on a scale totally unfathomable.
Unfathomable, but also everything's relative, so it just doesn't matter.
Yeah,
it just doesn't matter.
Doesn't at all.
There, anyways, that's wild. So I did more roast a marshmallow this time.
Yes.
So I got to have my sacramental meal before participating in the Song of the Spheres. I'll call it that, the Song of the Sphere. And yeah, there are subtle changes at the very, very end. So depending on what happens before, what comes later is slightly different. And one of the guys talks about this. I can't remember who it was. I think it's the guy from Giant Steep with the banjo.
Ryback.
Ryback?
Ryback.
Yeah. I think he was saying something like, even if we don't remember the past still affects the future.
Yes.
Something like that. And that's more or less where this note came from. Depending on what happens before, what comes later is different, right? Yeah. And so it's still informed by the past, even if the past is no longer contained in like a tangible, memorable, like kind of form. Sure. And then, the future is always built on the past, even if we don't get to see it. And I have a few lines here. Are we kind of we're closing
I think
up, right?
We're good. Yeah, I don't have anything left. So.
I just have a couple lines because there's a few things that I wanted to bring up that we didn't bring up last time, and I've just been thinking a lot about this game lately. And one of them is that the mere act of observing helps bring the material world into being. And if there's anything that we've learned from quantum mechanics, it's more or less that like fact,
right?
That the observer is a creator. Right, the observer is creative, and you don't have to like learn how to do it. It's just by virtue of you being you. You are helping manifest the universe. You're helping bring the universe into being more of what it already is.
Yes,
which is like kind of
manifesting.
Funny
its
to think about.
Yes, into like the physical.
Just making it happen, just by virtue of being an observer. And Ian McGilchrist says that attention itself is a moral act, right? Like just by being and looking, you're in the realm of morality, right? Just like in some way that's bigger than you. And then the end is just the beginning, right? Once again, like This is just the thoughts that I'm having as I'm finishing this game. Like, this is so cool. But I wanted to talk a little bit about this idea called the cloud of unknowing. You would probably love this. This is written by mystic, Christian mystic in England, I think, actually, around like 1200 or something like that, around the time of Meister Eckhart. And this guy wrote a book. He's anonymous. Nobody knows who wrote it. But there's a book called The Cloud of Unknowing, right? And it's... gosh, I don't know how to put it, but it's like the darkness, veil, light beyond. So the Cloud of Unknowing is an ancient mystical Christian text about surrendering your mind and ego to the realm of unknowing, to the realm of the unknown. That basically he says that a lot of the mystical experiences people have, or a lot of like the prophetic experiences with like Moses or whatever, they were accompanied by this like cloud, this like veil of darkness that was basically just the unknown. And that there came a point where they had to kind of surrender themselves to this unknown,
Right.
whatever it is, the cloud of unknowing, as he calls it, and that is where like God kind of like they have an experience with God,
Yes.
you know, and this is part of the reason why like fires with smoke and whatever it is, or incense in a church, things like that, they're trying to recreate this idea of the cloud, right, the theophanic glory cloud, but it's the cloud of unknowing wherein God reveals himself if you surrender yourself to it, right? But it's the unknown. And that's the idea of the fear. People have this fear of the unknown. And when you enter that cloud of the eye of the universe, that big dark storm with all the electricity and stuff, and you walk through that cloud into the darkness, you're in the realm of the cloud of unknowing, which is really fun stuff. This is also a really interesting idea. So this is old like old Jewish mystical stuff, but to ascend to God, one must pass by all the angels in the heavens. This is in Dante's Divine Comedy as well. Yes. You've got the different spheres, and each one's a different planet, right? Or a different celestial object, right? But this was so good because as we get to the eye of the universe, we kind of we first have to pass by each of the planets, right? Yes. And a planet is the ancients would have called them gods or angels, right? The planets like Michael is Mercury, I think.
Jupiter is one of the Roman.
Yeah, Jupiter is Zeus, basically, and
Zeus,
Pluto is Hades, and Neptune is Poseidon.
The Roman names of the Greek gods.
The Greek gods, but they were planets. They were specifically planets. And the idea of the ancient Jewish, mystical texts of the Temple and the Book of Enoch and all of that, it's like you have to pass by the angels on your way up. And that's what Dante does in the Divine, in Paradiso. He passes by each planet on his way up to the ultimate, the ultimate unknown. And in this game, it's just so fun. It's just another way that this game kind of participates in this really ancient view of what it means to experience meaning and to like have a deep experience, like on a campfire at night, looking up at the stars and, having this like transcendent experience with other people around you. Mm-hmm. And then here we are just basically doing that exact thing. And then I think we're good. I think that's about it.
Yeah.
It begins and ends with a campfire. It's a bookend,
yes,
right?
Bookend. Loved it.
So at the very beginning, campfire, and the very end, the campfire, and then I absolutely love it.
So good. I want to read a couple comments.
Oh, good.
From people who've been following us along the way here. This one comes from Mr. Rusty 103. Minor correction, as far as I'm aware, I'm no expert. In Bramble Space, you aren't actually creating a second probe. I think we covered this
you mentioned
before.
that you were gonna bring it up,
one,
though.
Yeah. It's just that since it essentially portals the probe to a new place, your computer is still reading the original scout signal right in front of it.
That's
so
right.
It
We
keeps
did talk about this.
It keeps it marked to the scout, but then it reports an error because it starts picking up a second scout signal.
That's right. We did bring this up. There was another one that you wanted to bring up that you commented on, the pinned comment from the last episode.
Law Gnome. Regarding the we've been in the time loop for 9 million loops thing, it is mentioned on Giants Deep in the Mask Lab that the statues will not pair until either the project succeeds or there is a critical error. As you found in the probe tracking module, the project succeeded in finding the eye. So that's the only reason the masks started working. So,
not because of the error. That's interesting. Okay.
You can see that the number of probes currently launched is equal to the number of loops you have played plus 9 million or so that happens before the eye was found. So you only became aware of the loops when the eye was found. So
Oh,
the masks,
that's different from what I thought.
the masks only began working or doing their work once the eye was actually discovered. So
That's
that's
very
why
interesting.
you and Gabbro.
So it could have been the other way around.
Yeah.
I see. Okay, wow.
So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Explanation for that. Yeah. Regarding what you're talking about, as far as my pinned comment from this week, Solanum is not wearing the third mask. The third mask is inside of the probe tracking module. It's sending the data back. So it's in the actual, like, the probe data, the probe module, tracking module that I think that was crashed in Giant's Deep. The one receiving the information from the probe. Because then it uses the mask to send that data back in time.
So that's the third mask.
That's the third mask.
Okay. But Solanum is wearing a mask.
She's wearing a mask, but that's just a Nomai mask. It's not.
But
like,
it's the same.
It's the same design.
Okay.
It's the same culture. It's just not literally one of the masks that actually does that job of sending information back in time.
Okay, cool.
Those are stored in the Ash Twin project, and one of them is linked to us. One of them is linked to Gabbro. And one of them is linked to the probe tracking module that is actually receiving the data from the probe.
Okay.
Which is why they were so pissed at those Nomai who kept saying, no, more power. Dude, if you destroy the probe tracking module where this mask is, then we can't actually get the data back in time.
Right.
Don't do that.
Yeah.
So that's why they were arguing about that.
Very good.
Okay. We got Glacial Bay. The idea of their language degrading over time is cool, but I don't think that's what's actually happening. We're talking about that the scribbly lines become more rough.
Yeah.
There's at least one Nomai, Solanum, who's writing, so that character.
At the end.
Whose
that's
writing
true.
you see as a child on Ember Twin and as an adult on Brittle Hollow. Her writing as a child is messy, and as an adult it is not.
Okay, so it's just as they grow up.
And then
it was really hard for me to keep that all
This guy
straight.
was saying also, that is correct. The wide, messy writing is child's writing, so there's a correction there. This one comes from, I'm not going to be able to pronounce that. Yukichiz 10. As a note about Chert, talk to him near the end of the cycle. We ended up doing that. He goes crazy, right? Poor Chert. See, this one is from RMS Gray. A few non-spoilery, as of this episode, thoughts of my own. The player character is unique as the first Harthian astronaut equipped with the ability to read Nomai writing. So it's not just being caught in the time loop that makes you unique, it's also that you're uniquely equipped to learn from the Nomai.
Well, that's nice.
Yep. In real life, if a star's visible to the naked eye, its light is probably less than 1,000 years. Oh, we were talking about the distance.
Yeah, but in part with this, specifically this game.
Contracted or compressed space between things. Anyways, if it's visible to the naked eye and it's not in the middle of a blackout, then the light is probably less than 100 years old. On the game scale, light from visible stars would be less than a day old. The sun in Outer Wilds is only 4 kilometers across, and the white hole is only 23 kilometers away. So you couldn't quite fit Manhattan Island lengthwise between the two.
That's funny.
A white hole, purely theoretical. It's equal and opposite to the black hole, a region of space-time that is nothing can enter. Models that include them don't agree on all the properties, and general opinion is that they aren't actually real, just an interesting quirk of the theory.
Which means the theory might be wrong.
Sure. The fact that Nomai warp pads also allow for a return journey appears to be a concession to gameplay. There's nothing in the game that justifies it being possible. It just works. Because it should be a white hole on the other side.
You should not be able to go in.
Back through.
Yeah.
Good point. My first time through Outer Wilds, I was assuming that the interloper falling into the sun was what triggered the supernova. That was kind of my thought, too.
Yeah.
Obviously, once you explore the sun station, you learn that that isn't the case. But until that point, I was thinking it was drawing on the same idea as Asimov's short story, Super Neutron. Speaking of Asimov, or maybe actually this isn't an Asimov story. I heard the name Asimov and I started actually thinking of Arthur C. Clarke.
Oh, nice.
The book Rendezvous with Rama.
Oh, I've never
read that one.
No.
This DLC, in conjunction with the concept of the interloper, gave me vibes from that. So that book is all about an alien foreign object that comes towards our solar system.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, "Oh, what the fetch is this thing?"
Yeah.
They think it's an asteroid, then they find out it's not. It's a freaking ship, and it's going towards the sun. And they go explore it. And I don't know. I don't want to I don't even necessarily remember the story that well. So I don't know. I don't want to spoil it. I guess don't watch anymore if you don't want to hear my possibly wrong remembering of what the story is. But there's nothing on it. Like the civilization died a long time ago.
Oh, wow.
But what it's designed to do is go close to stars to get energy so that it can continue.
So it just keeps going
and just goes to the next star, gets energy, goes to the next star, keeps traveling.
Isn't it great?
There's no people on
Isn't it great that the AI is still doing stuff even though everyone's dead?
But there's like all this like tension of like, oh my gosh, what is this thing? It's kind of like freaky, but like in the end, there's nothing there. It gave me vibes. This DLC where like all the people were dead because they're in their little dream space, but they're like dead, right? It's just their technology in our solar system. We just happen to come across and try to figure it out.
That reminds me, there was an object that entered our solar system like 5 years ago or something like that. That was like that really long one.
Yes.
It's just probably not. But some people thought maybe that was a spaceship, and it's gone now. We don't,
Yeah, that is essentially the story of Rendezvous with Rama.
Oh, crazy.
They think it's this elongated asteroid.
Yeah.
They go there, and it's like a cylindrical shape that spins, and so like it's all like we're talking about with the torus, so the inside of it has like stuff to research and explore. So anyway, I loved that book, even though I don't remember it that well. I just think Arthur C. Clarke's a beast. Yeah. Like 2001 is amazing.
Yeah, very good.
Rendezvous with Rama is amazing, and Childhood's End is freaking amazing. If you haven't read Childhood's End in 2001 yet,
I still should. I read 2001.
Based on all the stuff we've talked about on this podcast, like those two books should now be like required reading for this podcast.
I should read
You have to read Childhood's End, especially for Xenogears, and you have to read 2001 for this game and a bunch of other stuff we've talked about in the past.
What else? We watched, or we read that book specifically for a game. Specifically before a specific game.
2001?
Was it before Xenosaga?
Or are you talking about Childhood's End?
2001. I think I ended up reading it again right before Xenosaga. That's right. It was Xenosaga.
That's actually true. For any Xeno game, you need to have read Childhood's End and 2001, probably. But
no.
Rendezvous with Rama would be a good one. I think. I don't know if they were specifically. It could be that they weren't inspired by that, but I got vibes from Rendezvous with Rama from this game.
Sweet.
All right, let's see. Last one. It's from Mix. Mix is here with us.
Beast.
I really like this Alex Beecham quote that sheds light on his development process. I was having a hard time pulling them all together until one of our colleagues had the brilliant suggestion of making an emotional prototype to explore the game's mood. The resulting prototype, which invited players to roast a marshmallow as they watched the sun explode, established the tone of the entire project. I love that.
Very interesting.
I love that. That's great. Huh. A key reason why I think Outer Wilds works is because it never loses sight of this emotional core. For all of the joy of exploration that this game gives us, there are many quiet moments. By the way, this is Mix talking now. I should have clarified that. Roasting a marshmallow while watching the sun explode, then invite the player to just sit down and meditate on their place in the cosmos, on the time they have left, and on what they want to do with the remainder of their lives on this world. It's a space exploration game that ventures into the outmost part of the cosmos, but also fundamentally remembers that the explorers and the Nomai are themselves human. It is that attentiveness to the human aspect of Outer Wilds that really makes the game one of my favorites and a deeply meditative and thought-provoking experience on the whole. I agree with that 100%, and I also want to say on just the concept of meditation there. Last time I talked about an experience I had near death, and also suggested that you could get something close to that on hallucinogenic substances. But I want to actually add to that. It's not necessary to do that.
No.
You can actually get there through meditation alone. It just takes an effing lot more practice.
Right. A lot of time. Be worth it, I'd say.
But meditation is huge.
A lot of like monks.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And there's breathing practices that you can do that can put you into different states.
Yep.
And a lot of...
you can reach that upper level of consciousness without having to take anything at all. and without having to die. You can get there through meditation. You could probably get there through dreaming too. You have less control, I guess, over dreaming than you do over meditation.
If you're good at lucid stuff,
dreaming, yeah.
I'm not.
I've had a couple of times in my life where I've been able to be like, oh yeah, it's a dream. And I can. There are other times when I'm lucid dreaming, but I can't control anything. And it's really frustrating. It's like I'm lucid dreaming. I'm gonna fly now. Nope, you can't. Why? Nope. I'm supposed to be in control now.
I know but your subconscious is like wrestling the control back from you.
Exactly. But yeah, I failed to mention meditation last time. I think that was a mistake. Meditation is absolutely like a life-changing thing for me too. I've started meditating. I got away from it the last 6 months. I need to get back into it again. There's a program specifically I want to try out that I've been looking into. But I recommend it. I recommend meditation.
You should do the guy who wrote Jacob's Ladder, Bruce Rubin. He's got his.
That's right.
The YouTube channel.
I completely forgot about that.
Yeah, you should. That
was what I was going to do, and then I totally just left my brain entirely.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what I'm going to do now.
He's a beast. It's very interesting to sit through.
The guy who wrote Jacob's Ladder has a YouTube, a meditation YouTube channel.
Yep, it's a Bruce Rubin
it's
class.
Crazy. By the way, I guess that'll be out before.
That
episode will be
I
out.
can deal
if you
with
can figure out the copyright issues.
Copyright issues.
That
very soon.
Episode will be out before this one goes live.
Yeah, maybe.
So maybe people already know what we're saying, but if you haven't seen that, go watch it.
Go check it out.
It's actually phenomenal how tightly knit the themes of that movie and this game kind of are.
Yeah.
And another reason why it's one of my favorite movies, if not my favorite at this point. Super, super good. So go check it out.
Okay. One last note here. Six God has commented here on Discord that there's some interesting, there's like a reversal in the game of instead of turning off your lights and renouncing your observation of a thing in order to then reobserve it in a new state, you end up kind of doing the opposite. In order to open a door, you like turn your light off once a thing hits the place, and then the door opens instead of turning it on. Instead of starting to observe something, you end the observation, and that's what opens the door. Right. Or it's less observation, it's more just light.
Right?
The light that's hitting it, and the light stops, and that's how you kind of progress through the game. It has an inverse relationship with light, and by virtue of that observation, then
I like that, actually.
It did previously. It's pretty kind of cool
because these people are in opposition to the why of the universe.
Right. So it's like they've reversed
technology reflecting that would make sense.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool. I didn't even think about that. That's really
very good observation.
Anyway,
I think we're done, everybody.
Thank you for watching this series on the Outer Wilds. Next week we will begin with Tactics Ogre. We're getting back into our Yasumi Matsuno saga.
Good, that'll be fun.
But we'll just be doing development history next week.
Yeah.
We're going to have a guest with us, someone from our Discord who follows us and who's been a supporter of our channel for a long time. I'm very excited to get to meet him and get to know him better. He's an expert on this game and will hopefully help us know where we should start and end episodes. And
that'll be nice. I've never played this game.
He also wants to help me create a video to give tips on how to play the game, kind of like I did with FF Tactics and Vagrant Story. So I'll probably put something out like that for people who haven't played, because Tactics Ogre is notoriously very difficult. It's hard. It's harder than FF Tactics. And it can be frustrating when you play a battle for a long time and then you fail and you got to do it over again. Right?
Do it again.
So look forward to that. I'm going to be looking forward to that myself because I haven't even freaking played the game before. So anyway, appreciate you, everybody. We'll see you next week. Peace out.